everyone, and welcome back to another video of me reacting to something. Today, we're going to react to, by far, my absolute favorite sailing movie of all time, Wind, from 1992. This film is my favorite for several reasons. First of all, it's based on a true story of the 1983 and the 1987 America's Cups, and the comeback of Dennis Cotter. Whereas the movie counterpart in this case is a guy named Parker. So we're gonna go ahead and get into this. Pretty much start right off the bat with the sailing scene. I love 12 meters. I think 12 meters are awesome. I have nothing against the IACC boats or the current AC-75 that's being used, but by far these are I think really my favorite boats that were ever used in the Cup. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, hang on. So, just a couple things I want to go over here real quick for those of you who are not familiar with sailing. So you can see that number 12 at the top of the sail. That's what's known as the design indicator. Every sailboat has one of these. Each sailing vessel is different in terms of its design, obviously. So, for example, a Cal 20, for example, would just have a C, a big C, like a moon-shaped C, and then a 2-0. Catalinas, every Catalina boat has a red diamond, okay, at the top of its indicator. J boats, obviously, big J, okay? 12 meters, you can see the big number 12 with it being underlined. The sail number is actually further below that, and I'll play this a little bit further so you can actually see that. There it is right there. See it? So don't get these confused, okay? The design indicator, the manufacturer's mark, is on the top part of the sail. And then the specific number for this boat is down below here. And you can see this is US 70, US 70. So not every boat is like this. The boats that I race on personally are not separated by nationality. They have specific individual hull numbers for that series, okay? But boats like this, however, are sorted out according to nationality because more often than not, they're built in the country they race for. So in this case, a US 70, US 70, that indicates that it was built in America. Obviously, this is a New York Yacht Club boat, so obviously, of course, it would be built in Newport, Rhode Island. Later on in the movie, you will see other vessels, other 12 meters that are, let's say, KA or AW. That is an indicator for being Australian, whereas New Zealand boats are KZ, so don't get them confused. A lot of times, I mean, they're very similar. Canada's CA, I think French is FR, so on and so forth. So, it gets confusing after a while. I don't remember what Britain is. I feel like it'd be GB, but I think that'd be almost kind of too obvious. Anyway, I digress. So, what interesting fact actually about this boat in particular, in the movie it's represented as Radiance, but actually, the New York Yacht Club had two 12 meters that they used for the 87 America's Cup that almost beat the eventual winner, Stars and Stripes, but couldn't quite pull it off. And these boats were the ones that were used in the filming, actually. One of them played Radiance and the competitor in the second cup that's shown in this movie. It was just supposed to be the 87 Geronimo, and then the other boat played the two Australian boats that are represented in this movie. So pay attention to that because you're pretty much using all the same boats. I think actually there's a scene, if I remember right, where Radiance is training against what's described as an older boat. Yeah, that was New York's last official winner of the Cup, the 1980 America's Cup winner, Freedom. So she actually makes an appearance in this as well. which is really, really cool. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking for a moment and just shut up and just enjoy the sight of a 12-meter racing because it's just gorgeous. I probably will stop it a couple times during the crew scenes just to kind of explain to you what they're doing, so I won't have to do that again. Yeah, so that's attack. Some people don't understand the difference between tack and a jibe. So when you're tacking the boat, and I'm just gonna go back to that again here for a little bit. There's not a difference in terms of like what you're doing with the sails. You're bringing them across, but when you're tacking the boat, the bow is going through the eye of the wind. It's going across where the wind is coming from. You're changing that direction. On a jibe, it's the stern. So tacking is an upwind maneuver and jibing is a downwind maneuver. But what they're doing with the sails here is pretty much the same. I mean, if they were going downwind, especially in a 12-meter, they would have a spinnaker up, and you're going to see a scene here where they have that in a minute. So they all are keeping their heads down, of course, because above them, as you saw, what's known as the boom, which is the bottom of that mainsail. And they call it the boom because it's the last thing you're going to hear before you go in the drink if it hits you, and that's assuming you survive. I do know people who actually have been hit by that and have died. And on a boat this big with a boom that powerful, you better keep your head down. So you can see here on the edge of the jib here, this is called the clew, and they have two lines hooked up. Those are the jib sheets. So obviously, one of them is slack right now. The inside one is slack. That's because they don't need it now because they're now on the port tack. So this is something actually that's going to come up later on in the movie when you're going to hear the skippers yelling at each other, which is very realistic. This happens all the time, no matter what kind of racing you're in. So it gets confusing for some people because they think, oh, the side of the boat that the sails are on is the tack that they're on. And actually, no. It's actually the windward side of the boat. So the side opposite, where the wind is coming from. The sails are always on the leeward side of the boat. So the windward side, the other side, is the tack that you're actually on. So in this case, the sails are now on the starboard side of the boat. The main, actually specifically, is what the tack refers to. So you can have your jib on the opposite side, but you're still on that same tack because the tack that the boat is on is referring specifically to what side of the boat the mainsail is on. And in this case, the mainsail is on the leeward side, which is to starboard, and that means they're on the port tack. So it's all about the direction the wind is coming from. And in this case, it's the port side. So if you're on port tack, you have rights on absolutely nobody. If you're on starboard tack, you do have rights. So that's important to remember. So when you hear people yelling, starboard, that's what that is referring to. It means, I have rights, get the heck out of my way. Okay, so what they're doing there, that's called grinding. You see that even today in the America's Cup. The 12 meters that were used in the Cup, a lot of them have been modified with auxiliary engines that can power the hydraulics because they are such big boats. You are not handling these sails with muscle grease alone. You need hydraulic power. And in this case, these boats are pretty much bare bones at this point in time because they're racing boats. They're full-on racing boats. They don't have an engine or anything like that in them. So all of the hydraulic power comes from grinders, which is what those guys are doing. You can see them on the left there. They've got these handles, and they're just cranking them like this, just like the exercise machine you'll see at the gym sometimes. That's what they're doing. So they're providing the power, the pressure for the hydraulic system to allow these guys on the right here to be able to grind on this winch and trim the jib. So trimming the jib or trimming any of the sails just means either letting it in or letting it out. You're fine tuning the sails. You're getting them into a position that gives the boat the most power. Which hang on, let me go back there a little bit. I want to see what he's playing with there. What is he playing with? Sorry, I'm getting over a bit of a cold right now. What is he playing with? No, that's not far enough. Darn it. It could be Cunningham. Might be Cunningham, maybe. Could also be a Vang. Yeah, so what they're doing here now is they're pulling the jib down because they turned downwind, and so they're going to get the speed up. That's going to go up. Already have it up. Already flying. 12 meters have what are known as symmetrical spinnakers, which means they're symmetrical. And you can tell the difference between a symmetrical spinnaker and a non-symmetrical most obviously because the symmetricals have a pull, what's called a spinnaker pull, and you can see it on the bow of the boat. One end is connected to the mast, and the other end is connected to the clew of the sail. Well, actually, not the clew of the sail; it's connected to the sheet, which is the line that controls the sail. Now, just as you saw on the jib, the spinnaker also has two lines, called the guy and the sheet, respectively. Sometimes they're also called the foreguy and the guy. I hate calling them that because it just gets confusing real quick for people. Excuse me, the guy. Yeah, there's also, I just don't call them that if I can help it, because there's also a with the spinnaker pull, in order to keep the spinnaker pull from either skying, which is going vertical up, or just staying on the deck, there's actually two lines that are holding the spinnaker pull up. You have what's called a topping lift, which is connected to the top side of the pole, and it's under tension, and it keeps the pole up in the air. And you can actually tweak that a little bit as need be. It controls the end of the pole that's connected to the sail, and you can actually use that to actually even raise the spinnaker up or lower the spinnaker up a little bit, or push it out a little bit, basically. You can fine tune it. But in order to do that, you also have a line that's called the guy. Excuse me, the foreguy or the downhaul. So I prefer to call it the downhaul. So that's what I was getting at when I was talking about why I don't like calling something the guy, actually, and that's what I was actually referring to. I was referring to the downhaul. I'm sorry. So this downhaul is connected on the bottom part of the spinnaker pole, and it keeps it under tension down toward the deck, so that the spinnaker pole doesn't just go. And I have seen that happen before. If you don't keep that guy under tension, the spinnaker pole has a tendency to sky, and it's almost impossible to get down at that point. You pretty much can't get it down. You're screwed. And you're gonna see here actually in a minute here, and I'm gonna explain why I think they did it this way on this boat instead of what might have been a better way to get the spinnaker pole down, a safer way. But anyway, just to recap, spinnaker sheets are the one that's loaded on the sail is called the sheet, and then the one that the pole is hooked onto is referred to as the guy. And so what that means then is that you're able to control where the spinnaker is angled with the pole. So if the pole is like up front here, this is where the end of the spinnaker's sail is going to be, is up against the forestay, which is that front stay, that goes from the top of the mast down to the bow of the boat. The back stay, same thing, top of the mast, back of the boat. Okay? Anyway, very simple to keep in mind. Anyway, you can move that pole either forwards or back in about a 90-degree arc, roughly. And that you do that depending upon what your wind angle is. If your wind angle is more forward, remember, a spinnaker is a downwind sail, which means the wind's got to be coming from behind you, or mostly behind you, for you to fly it. And each individual spinnaker has its own specific shape or cut that works for that. I'm not a sail manufacturer, so I can't go into detail about that. about which spinnaker type is better for what necessarily. I've handled both sims and asims, and I can tell you that almost certainly, if the wind is more downwind, it is more behind you. That is, I would say probably a symmetrical is better. Uh, Whereas if the wind's more on a beam reach, so it's more forward, then an asim would probably be better. Anyway, so you're going to see here in a minute what they're going to do to get this spinnaker down, and it's, in my opinion, it's not the best way to do it. I think, but I'm going to go into why I think they're doing it this way. So when you're dousing the spinnaker, there's a couple reasons why you'd want to put the jib up first. First of all, you don't want to go bareheaded, and bareheaded just means you have no sail up front. You're a barehead. The other reason is because you want to have another sail up that kind of blocks the spinnaker. Because remember, you're still going downwind. You're still going with the wind. The wind's still coming from behind you. So that jib is going to catch the wind, and then it's going to leave very little for the spinnaker itself to catch. So the spinnaker is not going to be under pressure at that point, and so it's going to be easier to control as you bring it down. So that's why a lot of skippers do that way. I very rarely see it done any other way.
Get up there, Spider!
Okay, this is something that I do not have on any of the boats I sail on, but I don't sail on boats this big. The biggest boat I sail on is 40 feet. This is a 12 meter. This is a 60-foot boat. Okay. So what's going on here? Now you can kind of see their setup a little bit here, so you can maybe just make out the topping lift on this spinnaker pole, which is kind of in the middle. It's going up right kind of in the middle of the pole at an angle up toward the top of the mast. And then you can see the downhaul, and the downhaul is kind of like right here, right? And then you can also see kind of this line that's dangling off the pole. It kind of goes down like this, right? That's what's called the trip line. So the trip line can, if you pull it at either end, it'll open the jaws on, and there's on the tip of the spinnaker pole, and that's what closes in around both the mast and the sail, as you can see here. So this guy's climbing up this line here, this stay line, and again, this is not something that we have on our boats. So this line is actually functioning as the downhaul. It's not a setup that normally I would use, but it is a setup that they're using. So they don't actually have like a normal downhaul. A normal downhaul would be, you can just barely make it out how on the top side of the pole you've got one line going up like this and another one going up like that. At the top of that triangle is where the topping lift is. That's what's holding the pole up in the air at the moment. A downhaul would normally be doing the same thing on the underside of the pole, but they don't have that on this boat. They have what's called a stay line instead, which is a fixed downhaul. It's not clipped onto a line that's then clipped onto the pole. It's actually clipped to the pole itself. It's clipped to the bottom side of those jaws at the tip. So in order to get this pulled down, someone has to climb this line, and that line does not look very fun to climb. I've climbed some rigging that's like this, and it's not pleasant on your hands, let me tell you. It's really hard to grip. It's like cheese wire, almost. You got to have thick gloves. There's not a lot of grip on it, and it's really hard to climb up. You can see how very small this line is. This guy is very, very good at what he does, obviously. No surprise. He's a 12-meter sailor. So what he's going to do when he gets up to the top is he's going to pull that other line that's dangling down in front of him there, and that's the trip. And so he's going to pull that. That's going to detach the spinnaker pole from the spinnaker itself, and then that's going to allow them to bring the spinnaker around the head sail to the back of the boat, and then they'll drop the halyard and they'll pull it in. And then to get the pull down, they're gonna wait for him to climb down, and then they're gonna ease that topping lift, and that's gonna bring the pole to come down to the deck. I would imagine probably that on this boat this big, that they probably have a dip pull. So this is another thing: dip pulls versus end for end. And again, as I already mentioned, only symmetrical spinnakers use poles. ASIMs don't have them. They use instead what's called a tack line. And I'm not going to go into that right now because it's not relevant to the movie. If I see a boat that's using it, then I'll go into it. But I don't think there's going to be one. Anyway, so end for end poles, which are used on the boats that I race on, say this is the mast. Let's say this is the mast end, and then this is the end that's clipped onto the sail, and you're on. Let's just say you're on a port tack. Okay, you want to get onto starboard tack, so you got to jibe the boat. Remember, jibing is a downwind thing. So what you got to do is you got to unclip the mast end. So you got to take this end off the mast. It's still connected to the sail. Okay, and then what you're gonna do then is you're going to rotate it. Okay, so you're going to rotate it around, and then as you're rotating it around, the guys in the back are going to be easing the line that's still connected to the pole, which is like right here, and then that's going to allow you to turn it around. So for a brief moment, the spinnaker is not there's no pole attached to it. You're flying it like an ASIM for a moment. But the end that was originally on the mast, which is right here, then gets clipped into the new line that's going to be loaded up. Because remember, when you jibe the boat, you're switching lines, just as we saw with the jib. It's the same thing with the spinnaker. So you're going to clip in with that new line. That former mast end then becomes the sail end, and that former sail end becomes the mast end. So you literally do this. That's why it's called end for end. But the problem with that is that it has to be a very lightweight pole, and that's not going to work on this boat. It's too big of a boat. You need a heavy duty pole. So they almost certainly use a dip pole. So what a dip pole is it works somewhat like an end for end, but the main difference is that the mast end always stays hooked up to the mast. So you never disconnect that, ever. All right? That stays. What you do is you disconnect the end that's connected to the sail. So you pull the trip line, and then the sail's free, and you're flying it like an ASIM, and then the pole tip will duck underneath the forestay like this. It'll go like this. It'll dip under, clear the forestay to the other side of the boat, and then you can clip it into the new line. That's why it's called a dip pole. It literally dips. So that's almost certainly what they're using here. I haven't seen them jibe the boat yet, so I can't say for certain. But given the fact this is a 12-meter boat, this is a 60-footer. It makes sense. And just judging from the size of that pole and the size of the sails, I'd be shocked if it was not a dip pole. Oh, he's got a marlin spike. So what he's doing there, because there's a couple ways you can do this. You can either open the jaws on the pole itself and free the line and then just let the line run, or you can do what he just did, and this is normally what I do on my boats, is there's a clip at the end of each line that clips onto the sail, onto the clew of the sail, and you open that up. And in this case, the clip that they have kind of looks like this. It's like a figure 8 kind of thing, and then there's a pressure plate in the bottom of it that you push. But because it's under so much pressure as it is right now, you don't stick your finger into that. So what they use instead is a device known as a marlin spike, All right, which actually, let me see if I can find something here. I think I have something actually that I can show you guys that looks like that. Give me a second. Okay, so this is a marlin spike. This is what a marlin spike looks like. So it's got this tip to it, and you basically stick it into the hole. Remember how that clip looks like this? So you basically stick this into the hole and you push down and on that pressure plate, and that allows that clip to pop open, and then that disconnects it from the sail, and then you can just let the sail. You could pull the sail around with the other sheet as they're doing, and then that allows, and then they're going to drop the halyard here in a second. But you do need to be careful with your timing, because if you get it wrong, that sail's going to end up in the drink in a process what's known as shrimping, because it will just sag and look like a giant shrimper, basically. And then that's bad because it slows the boat down. It may as well be just like an anchor. A little bit wet. Yep, it's getting a little bit wet. But it's a big sheet, so I'm going to hold it. It's a good douse. Not a great, but it's okay.
Well, I didn't pick it up. Bearing 285, your speed is an 8 Well.
Oh yeah, so they have what's called a double helm. So some boats have two wheels, known as double helm boats. They don't have to be big boats like this. There's a 42-footer in my fleet that has a double helm, a Swan, and both the wheels are fully functional. You actually see this now with the AC-75, the current America's Cup boats. All of them have double helms. Because in 2021, Luna Rossa, the Italian team, their boat had the double helm, and it worked really, really well. New Zealand had a handful trying to beat them, and they did eventually beat them, but it was back and forth for a while. So in the last round, 2024, everybody adopted double helm because it was obviously very successful. So basically, what happens with the double helm boat is you have two drivers. One drives the boat on one tack, the other drives the boat on the other tack. Although I have also seen it where, and that's what Luna Rossa did, but I have also seen it where boats have two helms specifically for the purpose of having the skipper on either the high side or the low side, depending upon the wind conditions, for a specific tack. If the wind conditions are heavy, you want everybody on the high side of the boat, literally, to try to use that weight to kind of help balance the boat out a little bit, human ballast, if you will. If it's light conditions, you want everyone on the low side of the boat to get more of a heel, because that heel, as the boat heels, it puts more power into the sails. So that's another reason why you got double helm. But in these conditions, they're off Newport, they're Long Island Sound. They got good conditions out there, it looks like, at the moment. So everyone's going to be on the high side, as you can see.
Steer a while.
So at this point, this is supposedly set in 1983, the New York Yacht Club had held the America's Cup for 132 years, since 1851, when they first won it from the British in the initial regatta. So that is the longest winning streak in the history of sports, period, end of discussion. There is no argument on that. Also, this particular race predates the modern Olympics. It predates the Stanley Cup. So, and quite frankly, in my opinion, America's Cup's just prettier. I'm sorry. Stanley Cup's ugly. I don't care. Canadians are gonna come after me with their hockey sticks. I don't care. Stanley Cup's ugly. It's a piece of shit. Okay? Look at the America's Cup. It's a beautiful trophy. And it's been going on a lot longer, too. So, hockey fans can shove it. I don't care. probably the cleanest keel you've ever seen. He's just checking for any blemishes, which, I mean, is hilarious because, quite frankly, you're never going to find a boat that's as clean as that. And I mean, that was necessary too. So remember, they're in salt water here. So every time they pull the boat out, they got to spray her down with fresh water to make certain that the salt doesn't start corroding stuff. And, spray off all the critters and things like that. And then, sander, whatever they have to do. And I mean, they get really, really fine. I mean, they get to like 1,000 grit kind of sanding. I mean, it's insane the level to which they went, but it helped them hold on to the cup for 132 years. So, I mean, I can't complain.
Irolita, designed by old Captain Ned himself.
He built 6 defenders. He never lost once.
5. Vigilant.
Resolute.
Columbia.
Twice.
Defender.
Reliance.
Reliance, built 1903, crew 66. Largest single-masted ship ever built. Rainbow.
1934, Vanderbilt beat Endeavor. She was a faster boat.
Closest we ever.
So, Captain Nat, that's Nathaniel Harrishoff. He was a huge boat designer for years and years and years in the New York, Boston, just the New England area in general. So the boats they listed off, they're all cup winners. So Columbia, as I said, won it twice, 1899 and 1901. Reliance, interesting that they brought up Reliance. Reliance was one of those boats that really showcased how spoiled the cup had gotten at that point in time. Not to say that it doesn't have its flaws now, but this was really the first indicator, because for the most part, these vessels, once they were done with the cup, would go on to continue to race in other regattas and lesser regattas for many decades. One of them actually even went on to have a fishing career, of all things. Actually, that Columbia, actually, in 1899, 1901, she was the one that went off to fishing. But anyway, so Reliance was described as a freak when she was built in 1903. In fact, even Captain Harrishoff said that I don't want a boat that's going to last me decades. I want a boat that's going to win the cup. And that's exactly what Reliance was built for. Of all America's Cup racers that don't include the modern foiling boats, so all the traditional boats, I would say that of all of them, Reliance is probably the best designed for the job, because that was the only thing she was designed to do. All the other ones went on to have relatively good, normal sailing careers. A lot of them are still sailing. Stars and Stripes was sailing up till a couple years ago when Hurricane Irma hit, but she'll be back. Black Magic probably would still be sailing if she was in the museum. Australia 2, same thing. Last I heard, I think America Cubed was still sailing. Freedom was still sailing. The 1957 Cup winner, Columbia, was still sailing. Intrepid and Courageous, the last two repeat winners of the Cup, they're still sailing. So I think actually even was it Enterprise? Was it Enterprise? One of the J boats. Was it Shamrock? Shamrock the Fifth, I think Shamrock the Fifth, which was the challenger against Enterprise or Resolute. It was Enterprise. Yeah, it was Enterprise. It was 1930. Anyway, she's still sailing as well. So most of the Cup winners in the Cup vessels continued on to have relatively normal careers. Reliance did not. Pretty much as soon as the Cup was over, she was moved down and scrapped because she she did exactly what she was supposed to do, and she wasn't designed to do anything else. As I said, she had the largest single mast of any sailing ship ever. Period. I mean, she was a freak, but she did exactly what she was designed to do.
Never came to losing the cup in 130 years. My wife used to call these jealous mistresses. You married?
Yeah, almost. She'll be here next week for the 14th.
Sometimes we pay too high a price for our dreams. You know, Will, you're skipper material. So I'm gonna let you kick over the trial horse.
Yeah.
She's an old boat, but she's a champion.
There we go. Okay, so this is filmed in Rhode Island. This is I don't believe it was filmed on site. I don't think New York Yacht Club gave them permission to do that, but they're very picky about filming in their buildings. Even to this day, they do not allow pictures. They allow tours, they don't allow pictures. So anyway, I do believe this is filmed in the area of the New York Yacht Club. So they have two buildings. They have one on West 44th Street in Manhattan, and then they have the other one, which is what this is supposed to represent, and that's in Harbor Court in Newport, Rhode Island. It's like a country club, a very wealthy, fancy mansion country club. I've never been there. For all I know, this could be the one. It looks like it could be, but I don't recall if I don't recall if New York gave the filmmakers permission to film there or not. Okay, so this boat is American Eagle. This is the boat that represents the trial horse that our main character here, Parker, is sailing against Radiance, which is going to be the Cup Defender. And the reason that they do that is they do it for practice. Even to this day, if the rules allow it, mostly the rules don't usually allow it nowadays. They don't allow boats of the same class sailing against each other unless it's a race. Even though now they probably could, because each team has multiple AC-75 they can do that with, but they tend not to allow that. I haven't read the updated rules yet, so for the 2027 Cup, so I don't know what it is now. But back in the day here, it was very, very common for both challengers and defenders to do that. The challengers, I mean, they competed against each other anyway, so they kind of had that to begin with. New York was in a unique position because they'd won the Cup so many times and had so many 12 meters lying around that they could also kind of have their own challenge series to see who was going to be the defender. Very famously, the boat here, the boat that's depicted here, American Eagle, she actually was selected to race against Courageous, which was another who would go on to be the last of the repeat Cup winners. She won it in 74 and 77, I think that's what it was. I think it was 74 and 77. Anyway, she tried it again to go for a threesome in was it 80, I think, and of course she lost to Freedom, but everyone kind of felt that Courageous was still a faster boat. American Eagle raced against Courageous in one of those series, and did not succeed. Oh, it was 64. I'm sorry. So she was. Well, no, she did race against Courageous in the 70s, but by that point she'd already shown that she wasn't material, because Constellation, who was the 64 Cup winner, kicked her butt. But she was a good racer. I mean, she was a very decent racer. But anyway, yeah, this was American Eagle. And actually, fun fact, this boat gave her name to a Shock 40 that Ted Turner's grandson owned, and then that same shock was bought by a buddy of mine and was brought across the country to where I'm at in Oregon, But unfortunately, he sold it 2 years ago, and I haven't seen that boat since. It was a nice boat, too. A nice boat. That shock was a lot of fun to sail. She was a handful, but she was fun. Anyway, and actually, she was renamed to Geronimo, which is the name of the eventual winter boat in this movie. So I think actually there was a little bit of inspiration there from the movie. Anyway, to continue. So you see, they're gonna be practicing. They're gonna be training.
Come on, let's get it.
Looks pretty light. See, that is shrimping. Okay, that is shrimping the spinnaker. See how how the middle part is in the water, and actually it's even gone under the boat. Yeah, that you don't want that. That's bad. That's you may as well be throwing the anchor out at that point.
Let's go.
Hello everyone, Peter Montgomery here for the Australian Sports Network. Welcome to Newport, Rhode Island. We're at the Buzzards Bay Championships of the High Octane International 14s, one of the toughest classes in all of sailing. As every good skipper knows, the big boats get the glory, but the small boats make the sailor.
Absolutely true. 100% true. The big boats get the glory, the small boats make the sailor. No question.
We've got several America's Cup contenders down from Newport today. Let's look at the favourites. Jack Neville, Australia's finest skipper and a Cup challenger this year. Charlie Gaines, Olympic silver medalist. And the favourites, Parker and Bass. Will Parker, probably the best match racer on the world circuit today, and Kate Bass, retired from racing 6 months ago to get her master's degree in aeronautical engineering. It's a nice surprise to see her here today.
Couple more.
And in case you're wondering, is this scene like pure Hollywood? No, this is actually what these races look like. If you're in a small boat like that, and these are 14-footers, be prepared to get wet. I mean, these are dinghies. This is dinghy sailing. You're gonna roll over. You're gonna go in the water. It's just a matter of when. And if you're in a high-paced fleet like this, very competitive fleet, this is exactly what it looks like. This is not staged. I'm telling you, none of these racing scenes, and I mean none of them, whether it's the small boats or the big boats, none of this is staged. This is absolutely accurate. This is what it looks like.
Neville to starboard! Here he comes, the bastard! You bastard!
That's a great name for them, though. Great name.
Hey! Big trip! Oh, God! You're very good. You know that? Baby. Come up a little. Take her up! Ready to carve one? Thick and juicy! Stand by to jive. Aye, aye. Where'd it go? Lots of teabagging, bucko. Stick it up, stick it up. Jiving.
So as you can see, these boats do something that's called planing. So what that means, if I can go back and show you. Yeah, so you can see how most of the boat is out of the water. So it's this kind of idea that gave rise to foiling. So with boats that are on plane, it's just like with a big, powerful speedboat. They get up to this point where they almost kind of create a cushion between themselves and the surface of the water that lifts them up and allows them to go that much faster. So that's why these little 14 footers can push 20 to 25 knots, no problem. It's pretty impressive, actually. That was good. That was very, very good. So what Parker just did there was he noticed that Neville on Eureka was going to roll over the top of him and take his wind. So what he did is he tacked away before Neville could do that. And then that forced Neville to tack, and then Neville is now back behind him and is getting his shitty air that's coming off of his sails. Whoops, lost his jib.
Ah, Jack's lost his jib.
Whoopsie.
Patterson's coming on. Chumway's coming back. Whoa, nope. No, he's not. Patterson is no longer a factor. Charlie's making his move. Charlie's gone. Right there. Oh, yeah. We're in the groove now, baby. Oh, you sure are, mister. She's singing. Oh, sail this boat. No surrender!
Yeah, there we go. Oh. Yep. Yeah, that's exactly how it happens. It doesn't take much for these boats. These boats have no keel. That's the thing about them. They're dinghies. They have no keel. They have a centerboard. For minimal stability. So your ability to resist wind gusts like that's pretty limited. And they're also the reason why they hang out like this is for ballast. Right, you do the same thing on big boats too. When you hike out, when you sit on the high side of the boat on the rail, and that helps keep the boat kind of on an even keel. It's the same concept here, but it's more important because these boats are lightweight, they have no keel, and you need to use your weight much more effectively. So as soon as Parker lost his balance and fell to the other side of the boat, it unbalanced the boat and rolled the boat over. Far here. Oh, there it is. Nope. Oh, come on. That's the load on me. Don't load for me. I don't want you to load it. I want it to work. There we go. So, I mean, obviously what she's doing here is she's making repairs to the sail of the trial boat of the American Eagle. Because she's an older boat. It's older sails, so they aren't as good as the ones that Radiance is using. So, but that's actually not why I wanted to show you this. This is right here. So this is on site. So this is in Newport, Rhode Island. This is in Harbor Court. So that flagpole that you see there, that is the original America, one of her masts. Actually, it's her main mast. So the original race in 1851, the schooner America came over, kicked the British's butts off, and then some. And then took the trophy home. And so that's why the trophy now bears the name America's Cup. It's not because the country held of America held it the longest, it's because the yacht America won it. So it became known as America's Cup, as in it belonged to her. And this flagpole is her mainmast. The America herself served actually in the Civil War on both sides, and then was in commission during World War One as a training ship for the U.S. Academy, and then World War II as well. And there was an effort to save her. She was not in a very good state after 1921, and there was a lot of efforts to save her. Unfortunately, the Great Depression and then World War II came along and very much limited that. And the Naval Academy had her in a shed with plans to restore her as soon as the war ended. But unfortunately, in 1943, snowstorm hit and collapsed the shed on top of her, and that was it. And she was scrapped in 45. She was still in commission, by the way, and is one of only 3 ships in the entire U.S. Navy that was in active commission during Civil War and World War II. The other 2 being the Constitution, of course, and the Constellation. So, anyway, I thought I'd show you that because that flagpole is her mast. That is her main mast. So, pretty cool. So you can see here what they're doing. So you got the 2 boats, Radiance and American Eagle. And so Radiance is to windward, which means she's closer to the wind than American Eagle. So American Eagle is leeward boat. They're on the same tack, which means American Eagle has rights on Radiance. And so actually what they're going to do is they're going to come up. That means get closer to the wind. And by doing that, because they have rights on Radiance, Radiance then has to come up as well. And actually, it's going to put her in irons, which means she's going to be right into the wind and lose all of her power. And she's going to be sitting there while American Eagle races past.
7-9. Why don't you come up a little higher?
Very fast.
Congratulations, boys. You just beat Morgan. All right.
Yeah, so the America's Cup was always a huge event in Newport. Every time, the whole city just absolutely loved watching these races. And so the opening day of the regatta was super intense with all the fanfare and stuff. As you can see, all these boats are out here watching it. You saw the 2 competitors, Radiance for the New York Yacht Club, and then Boomerang, who represents the Australians. In real life, it was New York Yacht Club's Liberty against the Australian club's Australia 2. And of course, we know what happened. Australia wins, breaking that 132-year streak. That's accurate. So those people on that other boat were all of the New York Yacht Club's board of trustees. Basically, they're commanders, and including the Commodore. And actually, there's a rule that all but one of them can be present for the cup. And the reason for this is because And this goes back to when the deed of gift was developed. The basic rules for this event were made in the 1850s. And what happens is that every time that there's an America's Cup event, the mindset is always on the next one, right? Clubs that are watching it on the sidelines usually like have 2 letters written up to both clubs. So it doesn't matter which one wins, they're going to issue a challenge. But the rule is you can't issue a formal challenge until there is an official winner of this cup. Which is why one officer from the defender will lock himself away for the event. He will not be present for it. So that way, if a challenge does come, then usually it's the Commodore who locks himself away. But anyway, it could be anybody. But anyway, this officer has to lock himself away for the entire event, and then wait until the event is over before he can come out. And then actually no, I think sorry, I got it wrong. All the officers except for one have to lock themselves away. So all those guys you saw on that boat, they're on that boat for a reason, okay? They're isolated. They're not going to be talking to anybody. So they have to wait till the event is over, and then someone can formally issue a challenge, and then they can receive it. So I mean, like if somebody formally challenges during the event, that one officer who's not locked away, who's out in public, can receive it, and then when the event is over, then he can deliver it. So that's how that works, and that still goes on to this day. Even the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, which currently holds the cup, darn Kiwis, no offense, they did the same thing. They did it in 2021 when they won it again. They did it in 2024. It was Luna Rosa that pretty much issued the challenge like right away. But so did the English team, and the British team actually were the ones that got the challenge in first somehow, and that's why they're the challenger record. Cup, the 2027 Cup, the 38th edition. So anyway, one thing I actually want to point out here is that the cup in which the New York Yacht Club lost it in 1983 was the 25th edition of the America's Cup. Here it's depicted as, I think it's depicted as the 30th. So they got some things wrong here, and I'm going to point out some things, but also at the same time, even though this isn't historically accurate, there are things in here that did happen during Cup events, and I will point those out. You got the first one coming up here pretty soon. Okay, see what I said about hiking out? That's what they do. This boat does not have railings, which is just plain scary. I'm sorry, it's terrifying to me. But they're hanging out over the side there. They got to have some handholds up there on the deck there somewhere to hold on to. But they got one leg dangling down, pretty much to the water line there. So they're putting out as much of their weight out on the side of the boat as they can. So it acts as like a pendulum, trying to keep the boat from heeling too much. A little bit of heel is okay, but you don't want too much of a heel, because then you get out of control.
Gaining bearing, sir. Full speed 8.
Oh, sorry.
2 and steady.
Okay, so actually what he was talking about there, Shirley, so he is one of the tacticians, or the navigator, actually. I'm sorry, Parker is the tactician here. So what is happening here, Charlie's talking about the bearing, so he's talking about a bearing to the other boat. So you're keeping an eye on the other boat, you're looking for the mark as well. So you want to have the shortest distance you can to the mark. It's known as VMG, velocity made good. It's basically a combination between your forward speed and the distance, and the angle to the mark. It's geometry. It's like, okay. trigonometry. I mean, not that different. Anyway, so that's what his job is. He's keeping an eye on where all the other objects are out on the water and the boat's distance to it and everything like that. So he's helping Parker, who is the tactician, to make the decisions on where the boat needs to go, where it's going to be the most efficient, where it's going to be the fastest, where is it going to get from point A to point B in the best way possible, and take care of the competition too when the boys at it. You got to remember, the important thing about the America's Cup is that it's a match race. So match racing is very different than fleet racing because for several reasons. First of all, the most obvious, there's less boats under the water, there's less traffic for you to worry about. But the other thing too is that because you're only racing one other boat, you can afford to engage in maneuvers that you otherwise normally wouldn't engage in if you were in a fleet. If you were in a fleet, you have to kind of spread your priorities out a little bit more between this competitor, and you're having to choose between them sometimes. With a match race, you only have one competitor you need to worry about, and you always need to stay between him and the mark. In a fleet race, you may not always have that luxury. So that's why the America's Cup, especially by this point, 12 meters had been used since the early 50s. So they were getting close to the pinnacle of their design. And were only used actually only one more time in 1987, and then that was it. This is the penultimate time they're used. So the thing is that when you have a boat that's been around in this type of regatta this long, it gets to a point where the boats themselves are pretty evenly matched, and it comes down more so to crew skill level. And we actually saw this throughout the 1970s, where the boats themselves are pretty evenly matched. The boats that the Australians and the not the Canadians, the British were bringing to bear against New York were actually pretty adept. I mean, some of them were actually even faster than the boats New York had, but their crew skill level wasn't there yet. It wasn't until 1983 that you had a boat in Australia too, represented by Boomerang here, that was faster than the New York Yacht Club's Liberty, represented by Radiance, and the Australian crew skill level had reached the point that it needed to be on par with the Americans. There were plenty of warning signs, and New York didn't heed them. They got overconfident, and they paid for it. And they've never won it back, not for lack of trying.
Concentrate now.
Holding bearing.
What do you got now, Will?
Still increasing. We're up about 7 boat lengths, sir. Charlie, where's the mark? I can't see it.
Translation, the other boat, Boomerang here, is closing in on them. They've got better wind, they got a better point into it, and they're coming up very, very quickly here on them.
Boat speed 69. Damn. 2 boat lengths past the ley line, sir. Need attack, sir. Right up, Spider! Spider! Get him down, baby, get him down.
Somebody take the wheel. Take the wheel.
Sky.
Come on, boys. Let's get him in a hole.
The Spider. On their air. Come on, just keep it going a bit further.
Mark again, boys. Hurry.
Damn.
What? You hit the mark? Gotta go around the mark again, boys. Hurry it up. Come on. Hurry it up, damn it.
So what they just did is they hit the mark. Thankfully, it's a soft mark, so it's just an inflatable mark. It's not a hard mark, because if it was, they'd have full damage. But what happens if you hit a mark is you have to do a penalty turn, which means you have to go around it again. And this is the first of a couple of events that happened in real America's Cup history, but not necessarily in this context. So actually, what did actually end up happening was in the 1986 Louis Vuitton Cup Finals, which was leading up to the 1987 Cup. So in this movie, that's going to be the next series. So this is representing the 83 series, and then the next one. So this actually took place in the next one. That what happened was Stars and Stripes was racing against another boat, and this other boat hit the mark, doing the exact same thing, hitting the final mark, and had to go around again. And Kiwi Magic did, which was the New Zealand boat. In fact, Kiwi Magic was actually really the only boat that ever beat Stars and Stripes early on in the regatta, and then Stars and Stripes just showed her superior ability. But anyway, I digress. So Kiwi Magic was very, very close. She was within distance of catching Stars and Stripes, but then she hit the mark, and she had to go around again, and that cost her the race. And it's going to cost these guys the race here, and it's going to cost them the regatta as well. So this is actually the last race in this series. In real life, in 1983, Liberty was up 3-1, and it was a best of 7 series. So the first of 4 would win the series. But she was up 3-0. But unfortunately, for some reason, the Americans just couldn't finish the job, and Australia too was able to win 4 races in a row and take the cup home. And I think that's kind of mentioned here actually as well, is the Americans were up for a while, and then this race has just gone on and on and on, and they're exhausted. So unfortunately, it ends up costing them the race here.
It's only moments away from the finish line, and the one in the lead flies not the red, white, and blue, but the green and gold from the land down under.
So that's actually real footage there of the 1983 Cup. You can see what I was talking about, the KA on there. That's Australia 2. That is original footage from 1983 of Australia 2 taking the cup away from New York.
The America's Cup is about to be America's no more. And Radiance is the boat that lost it. And she lost it when tactician Will Parker hit the mark. You're witnessing the end of an era. Watch for the victory smoke. It's almost there. Coming up to the committee boat. They're over. Boomerang has won the American.
So there we go. They lost it. Well, that's one way to design a spinnaker, but fair enough. I mean, what I will say is that really probably the most inaccurate thing about this movie is them building and designing this boat in secret and not having anybody check on it, not having any spies around, not having to deal with any of that. That's not the reality. Back in these days, the team's attitude was really anything goes. And that's why the cost of the cup kept going up and up and up, was partly because of inflation, but mostly because of the fact that the teams were spending millions of dollars every week on spying on each other. And there was no regulation on that. The last couple cup cycles have really started to crack down on that. And now for the very, very, very first time, this upcoming cup in 2027 will have a central body that governs it, like how you see in other sports. Football has the NFL, hockey has the National Hockey League. The America's Cup has never had that before in its long history, and at this point in time, it did not. So it was really up to the individual teams how they wanted to do things. You had a general set of rules, but nothing more than that. And you had no central governing body. It was the defender, the team, this yacht club that held the cup that made all of the decisions. That's why the cup is so hard to win. Because if you are the defender, the holder of the cup, and you make all the rules, you're going to make it as difficult as possible for a challenger to try and take it from you. That's why. It is the most unfair regatta in sports, at least until now. Now that they have a central body that governs it instead of the defender. So the defender doesn't make all the rules anymore. The central body does. I don't entirely agree with that. I understand why they're doing it, but I don't agree with it. I do not agree with AP because it goes against the deed of gift, in my opinion. The America's Cup needs to be hard. It needs to be different than other sports. It needs to stay different than other sports. But that's just my opinion. How do you know your time's gonna work if you can't keep up with it? How about that?
Today, come to cheer the boys.
Yeah, see, so in reality, it was actually the 26th defense, not the 31st. So this footage, I'm just going to use 31, because the 31st defense, if I remember correctly, was in 2003, and this movie was released in 1992. So 2003 was, with New Zealand, who had won the cup from San Diego in 1995, and the challenger was Alinghi, which was a Swiss team, and Alinghi ended up winning it. But it's interesting that they use this title because the 31st America's Cup didn't exist when this movie was made. This movie was made in 1992, and if I remember right, I think that was God, what was that? That would have been, let's see, the 25th was 93, so this would have been the 28th actually edition. The 28th edition would have been the year this movie was made, and that was when between the San Diego Yacht Club with America Cubed, which was in what's known as an IACC boat, International America's Cup class. So they're actually pretty big boats. They're similar in size to a 12 meter, but they're designed a little bit different. They're a little bit narrower in the beam. They're sleeker. They don't draw as much. So they were kind of a 12 meter. If the 12 meter went on a diet, basically. But that lightweight design did cause problems, most notably with the Yacht 1 Australia in 1995 that sank, and then later on in 2003 when New York's boat, New York Yacht Club's boat, Young America, also cracked in half and sank as well in Auckland. And basically what happens is the same thing. Both boats, basically the mast drove down, the keel snapped the keel in half, and the boats basically went down looking like a banana, with the bow like this and the stern like this. They were broken in half. So it was a pretty serious design flaw. Anyway, I digress. So I do believe this footage is actually probably taken from 1987. It looks like it probably is. It might be 88, but it looks
to
like
the 31st defense of the America's Cup. Long shot Geronimo is still on the warpath. The Americans squeaking out their victories over 7 other international contenders in their bid to challenge Australia. Underdog Will Parker has had...
Yep, remember I told you about the Challenger series and about how multiple challengers will challenge the defender, and then they have to have a series amongst themselves, a playoffs, if you will, basically, for the right to take on the defender in a winner-takes-all series. Hang on, I gotta go back. I gotta show you that. So... Okay, so that's actually a pretty cool nod to history. So you can see on the keel there, they got these little wings that stick out. So that was a design that was initiated in 1983 by Australia too. The boat that took the cup from the New York Yacht Club. And this wing keel design was radical, and this is really probably what gave Australia too a huge advantage. So to see it on this generation of boats, and the boats that play the boats in this film were from the 1987 series, so they would have had these adaptations as well. So it's really neat to see that. The Fremantle Doctor is in full effect. If you don't know what that is, the Fremantle Doctor is basically a series of strong winds that come in at a certain time of year in Australia, usually around September, October, and continue on through March. Basically, continue on through the winter, through the summer down there, and just provide a steady, consistent breeze. It's almost like the trade winds.
All right, here he comes. It's gonna be close. It's gonna be close. We're gonna have to buck it. Stand by to attack. Come on. Attacking. Next coming back to cover. Elevate's bound up, Reverend. We need a bit more pace. All right, he's covering us. Let's go back. Jackie. All right, get to the point. Now you're working good, Will. Looking very good. Gain another boat length. Trim the body. Trim the body. Speed is increasing. We're at 8-2. All left. Run 10.
Good pressure out there to the left. It's a big gain to them. Our course is 175. It's down 5.
Right, you're sailing like a bunch of maggots. All right, we're headed to full tack. Now give them the give it. Let's go now. Helm's down. Okay, we're gaining bearing. I think we can cross now, Will. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you know. We're gonna cross them. We gaining on them tonight. We're fine. We're gonna cross them. Let's go for it. I don't believe you, Charlie Pony. Are we getting trees on them or not? We're gonna make it. Let's go for it. We got it.
Looks like they'd be heading in here for a lead bow situation.
Starboard! Hold your...
Right? So remember when I talked about port versus starboard tack and who has rights? Yeah, the green boat Platypus, the Australians, they have the right of way. So they're calling starboard on Geronimo, who's on port and has no rights. What Geronimo should do is fall off. That is steered down off the wind, so steer in the direction that her sails are on. So steer to starboard, and then basically duck behind them. Just do a little dipsy doodle doop is what they should do, but they're not doing that.
Course, we're fine!
What the bloody hell do they think they're doing?
No, they're too close. Even I can see that. They're way too close.
What are they doing? We're not gonna make it.
We're not gonna make it! We're not gonna make it! You always say that, and we always make it! Please stop it! Jesus!
Yep, exactly. So, two things here. First of all, the collision. So there have been several collisions in the history of the America's Cup. At the time this movie was made, there was one major one that happened, and it happened in the Defender series. So again, this is back during the days where the Defender, who holds the cup, has multiple boats of the same type, in this case 12 meters, and they were using them, racing them against each other to figure out which boat was the fastest. And what ended up happening was Australia 4 collided with Kookaburra the second, and neither one of them ended up continuing on to the cup. It was Kookaburra the third that tried to defend the cup unsuccessfully against Stars and Stripes. But anyway, The other thing that happened as well were excuse me, sorry. The other thing sorry, the other thing that happened was that you'll see here in a second where the platypus, the green boat's mast actually breaks in this collision, and fair enough because there's a lot of forces involved here. That also actually happened as well in the 1983 series, and when the Challenge France, during the Defender series, excuse me, the Challenger series, the selection series, playoffs, basically, they broke their mast, and unlike in the movie here, they weren't able to get a replacement, and they had to drop out of the regatta, unfortunately. To my knowledge, there hasn't been a fight like this on the water in the America's Cup, but I can tell you from experience that in other races, it happens all the time. It happens all the time. It's so realistic. Oh my god. It wouldn't surprise me if something like this did happen in America's Cup event. If you had a collision like this during the Cup, I have no doubt in my mind words would be said, words that are not fit for children, and probably more than a few accounts of physical altercations. So I am not going to dock this scene for any points for realism, because absolutely this is totally plausible. As professional as these sailors are, they're still sailors, okay? They're still sailors. And at the end of the day, that's always what we are. And if someone fucks up, we're going to be the first ones to let you know you fucked up, and we're going to tell you how you fucked up, and exactly where you can shove that fucking mistake you just made. In that order.
Well, it was only a matter of time before the Americans ran out of luck, and Jack Neville's years of experience caught up with them. The word from the race committee tonight is they will not allow a couple of cowboys to turn this challenge into a free-for-all.
Yeah, who started the fight? He did.
Also, very, very fair, very fair. And this scene's actually very, very realistic, because at the end of every single race in the America's Cup, even the Challenger Series, there's always a press conference. Okay, where the skippers come on stage and they talk. It's like a political debate almost, but it's really more of a sailing debate. So they talk about how they did, what they could have done better, things like that. But because there was a collision here, you can see there's a lot more going on in this.
This race belongs to Australia.
Okay, so couple things here. First of all, absolutely correct. The committee actually would have already ruled that anyway at this point. Geronimo was completely in the wrong. They had no rights. So, no doubt, this race obviously would have been awarded to Australia. The other thing too, actually, that you're going to see here in a minute is Geronimo has a spare mast, and they're going to give that to the Australian team so they can race tomorrow. So it's not just a walkover for Geronimo, or they just show up and then they call it. That just wouldn't be fair. Remember, at this point, they're tied. So now they're tied in the series. It's not explained actually what the best is. I would assume it's a 4-4. So I'm going to say that they're probably both 3-3 now. Anyway, I digress. So when they give the mast, when Geronimo gives the mast to Platypus, this is something you see only in sailing. You do not see this in other sports ever. All right, and I'm going to give another example, a real life example. In 2021 in Auckland, the New York Yacht Club's boat Patriot capsized after rounding the final mark, heading toward the finish, and very nearly sank. And the reason that it didn't sink was specifically because the other teams that were competing, the British team, the Italian team, and also as well the defender, New Zealand. Actually, New Zealand actually was had the first boat out there assisting, and they helped right the boat, and also actually you can see in footage Peter Burling, who is the skipper of Team New Zealand at the time, actually on Patriot tying flotation devices to Patriot's bow to keep her from sinking. You don't see that in other sports. You don't see other teams coming to the aid of this team with this kind of boat that costs $100 million, risking your own potential of holding on to the cup. What if you help this team out and they go on to win it? You're risking your own neck and your own supplies, and all the teams, New Zealand, Britain, and Luna Rossa, also donated the materials. They donated the supplies, expensive supplies at that, to get Patriot repaired back out on the water. The boat was never really competitive again after that, unfortunately. They just couldn't fine-tune her. She was freaking fast, and she still holds the record for the AC-75, for that class of boat, for the highest speed recorded, about 54 knots. She still holds that. Unfortunately, they just weren't able to retune her up to handle that speed, sadly. But anyway, so you don't see that level of cooperation in other sports. It's not to that level. And that's the thing about sailing that this movie does get in this scene very, 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 very well. If, another team donating, just giving away their expensive spares that they themselves might need further down the line, but they're going to give them away to this team because this other team needs it so they can go out and race. That kind of camaraderie is not something that exists in other sports. It just does not. It does not exist. I'm not going to even say it's here to this level. No, it does not exist in other sports. You don't see this in other sports. None of them. This is not present in hockey. This is not present in football. This is not present in basketball. This is not present in baseball. This is not present in soccer. This is not present in cricket. It's only present in sailing. Sailing is the only sport you see this kind of camaraderie in. Period. And why? Because they're sailors. Because we're sailors and that's what we do.
It's an extraordinary development here in Fremantle. An unprecedented concession by the American skipper now leaves the series all tied up at 3 races each, and the decider tomorrow.
You sure it's in here?
I don't know. I didn't pack it. It might be in the other one. Maybe we forgot it.
It's amazing how things just come to me. I've been thinking about how to generate more lift.
Joe, can you help me, please? This is very important to me. It's a Kevlar bag. It's got white stars on it.
Yeah. I sort of imagined this huge shape go by with almost no tip vortex. It just came to me.
Betrays with your hip principles. What a load of crap. Do you have any idea how humiliated I was in there? I am head of this syndicate, and Charlie is now skipper. Now get out of here, and you can get off these premises before I call the police!
Okay, so this is something, unfortunately, that is realistic as well. It doesn't usually happen in the middle of a regatta, though. I will say that. It tends to happen after a regatta. So, but there was one instance when it did happen. In 2013, it wasn't the skipper, actually, it was the tactician. Oracle replaced their tactician that they had originally throughout the regatta and put on Ben Ainsley instead, who now helms the British team. And it turned out to be the right move because then they went on to win the cup in a fashion that is just incredible. It's called Miracle on Water for a reason. Anyway, the other thing that's accurate here is that syndicate heads firing skippers for whatever reason that they feel like is accurate is unfortunately true. It happens all the time. It happened with Dean Barker a couple years ago. Now it's happened with Peter Burling, Grant Dalton, canned him from New Zealand, and so now Burling's going to go to the Italians. This is why I think the Italians are going to win the cup. I think New Zealand just shot themselves in the foot, and they're not going to be able to run. The Italians have been getting better and better with every series. They have tried to take it 6 times now. I think that now with Peter Burling as their skipper, they're going to win it. Anyway, back in these days, though, if skippers were fired, they couldn't usually jump on another team. Another team wouldn't hire them usually. It was very nationalistic back in those days. The turning point was 2003, when after New Zealand won it in 2000, the original team from that win got fired and then got rehired by Alinghi, the challenger, and that did not go over well in New Zealand at all. In fact, it was at the point where there were death threats being thrown around. Anyway, so why am I supposed to say his name? Russell. So when this happened, it was a shock to everybody, because up until this point, sailors had always been loyal to whatever their national team was. I say national team, it wasn't a national team, it's a yacht club team. But it's, you're representing your country at this point. And I don't think anybody realized by the early 2000s actually just how nationalistic the cup had become, or had been seen, at least for a little while, because as soon as sailors started going around and going to other teams and becoming sailors for hire, it really pissed a lot of people off. And there are some in the America's Cup community who feel that we need to go back to the old way, where no foiling and everybody on the team has to be the same nationality. I don't entirely agree with that. I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, it's not a realistic, it's not a practical option at this point. We're stuck with what we have, which is the foiling boats. And I don't mind the foiling boats. I didn't like the catamarans, don't get me wrong. I did not like the catamarans. But I do like this current iteration, the AC-75. I like the monohulls. They're really, really cool. But I do understand the need to have more people on the team that are of the nationality of that yacht club that team was representing. I think that is only fair. Because otherwise it really just doesn't open the cup up anymore for new sailors. It's just the same group of people over and over and over again. It's pretty much all Kiwis and Australians now in the regatta. So there's a saying in the sailing community that the French rule the offshore and the Kiwis rule the inshore. That's absolutely true. Most of the sailors in the past America's Cups as of late have been Kiwis. Or former Kiwis who have naturalized to their new nations. Jamie Spithill comes to mind as well. He was an Australian citizen who became an American citizen later on. But anyway, I digress. So my point here, actually, what I'm getting back to is syndicates. So the lady there, she's a syndicate head. What she says goes. That's just the way it is. If she wants to fire the skipper for whatever reason, she can do that. It's not going to be very popular, but she can do that. The fact that this other guy, Charlie here, who obviously made a major fuck up, who clearly is like some kind of golden boy, unfortunately, this also happens as well. This is really more of a yacht club specific thing, I feel like. It doesn't always happen this way, but it's becoming more and more prevalent in the upper echelons of the sport, where it's more about who you know and less about what you know. Although the nice thing about sailing is that the way that the sport itself is designed, and just the fact that you are sailing, it still demands a higher percentage of skill over who you know than other sports do. Okay. Most people could probably play baseball or basketball whenever they were rich enough. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. Most people could own a racing syndicate in sailing if they were rich enough. But most people could not skipper the boat or be on the boat or race the boat, even if they were rich enough to do so. Even if they were rich enough to own it. So that's really the key difference here with sailing. So that woman has all the money, but these guys have all the knowledge, and unfortunately this guy on the left here, Charlie, is being a dick and is trying to wheedle his way into a position of power. He's being a big baby.
That's private property. I'm warning you. This is mutiny.
And they sang as they watched and waited till they...
There's been a big shake-up in the American afterguard. Kate Bass has replaced Charlie Gaines as tactician on Geronimo, so the old team of Parker and Bass are back together again.
Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about this real quick. Women in the America's Cup. So there have been female sailors before. Most famously in 1995, there was a all-female team that competed in San Diego for the right to challenge San Diego Yacht Club, who held it at the time. They were soundly defeated by New Zealand's Black Magic, which did end up taking the cup home. There have been some individual women that have competed sets, but very, very few. With the current iteration coming up in 2027, 38th edition, there will, for the very first time in the rules, it is required to have one female sailor on board. I'm torn on this. On one hand, I understand why they're doing it, and I definitely think it is necessary. It's about time that females get in the cup. But on the other hand, I also have to point out, too, that the reason that females have not competed in the cup beyond a handful of times is because physically they just aren't up for it. They aren't as strong as men. We just aren't. I'm sorry. I would love maybe even the opportunity myself to do it, but there's no way. So I would rather, for me personally, it's more about, I don't want people to get into the cup because they're given a spot. I want people to get into the cup because they've earned it. This is a race, this is a regatta that you have to earn your place in. And you can't do that if the rules say you have to have a female on there. It just doesn't feel the same. If there's going to be females in the cup, it has to be because they've earned it, not because the committee says you have to have a female on the boat.
Go inside.
Never mind, Bruno. Big trip. Here we go.
How long to the gun?
It's showdown time in Perth, Australia. There'll be no protest flags today. Both sides have agreed to waive the rules and settle this match on the water. At the start, they'll jockey to get behind each other till the gun goes off. The boat behind trying to force the leader over the line early. Let's join the pre-start maneuvering now. Just about a minute left on the countdown clock.
Tacking. 3, 2, 1. 1 minute down.
20.
57. 57. Put your back in the top. Pump it. Attaboy.
That's it.
We run her off. Attack. I'm on him. I want him. 35.
Let's go!
bloody red boat. Let's go for the line. 7, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, this is pretty accurate as well at this point, late January, early February of 1987, which is when this is now. It could be a little iffy at times, actually. In fact, during the 87 series in the Cup, the day 3, the third race, actually was called off because there was no wind. The race committee had the boats out there and they canceled it. Just there wasn't enough wind. So absolutely, this definitely did happen in real life in this context. They probably wouldn't have their national flags on their stern at this point. You don't want any extra weight on the boat if you can help it. I mean, they'd have it for the post-race parade, and the before-race parade, but they probably wouldn't have it on there after. They'd probably take it down. At least I've never seen them flying it during a race.
What do you mean, what?
See that over there? See it? Let's tack.
That's wind, by the way.
It's pretty risky.
Come on, it's right there. You can practically touch it. Let's go.
All right, boys. Quiet. Let's roll tack this mother.
They're up to something. They're tacking. Trim, trim, trim.
Wait. 1.2. 2.25. I like it.
Geronimo picked up a patch of wind on the left side of the course, and the Americans have squeezed out a 4-boat lead. Australia trying to find the groove as they head to the windward mark.
Down by the tack. Going in at 78. Tacking.
They're slow on this tack. Stay delayed.
hit it this time. So too strong of a breeze for that spinnaker, so it tore. That's called blowing a chute. I've seen it happen before. It's not pretty.
Get the 1.5 quick!
Yeah, so when he says 1.5, so what he has up there is probably a 3/4, and that refers to the fabric strength, basically how many fibers per inch or whatever it is, basically. So in this case, that one's a 3/4 size means it's like a fiber strand every 3/4 of an inch. And then the 1.5 is a thicker material. It's stronger. So it's more of a heavy air, and as you can see, they're in heavy air here. So no wonder that 3/4 blew up. When you change spinnakers, so you're not going from a spinnaker to a jib or a jib to a spinnaker, you're changing from one spinnaker to another. That's called a spinnaker peel. So that's what they have to do. It's a spinnaker peel. So they have to get this one down. Well, actually, they have to get the other one up and then get the other one down very quickly. It's very complicated to do. You have to have 2 spinnaker halyards to do that. These boats do. They have 2 spinnaker halyards. They also have 2 jib halyards. But it's not an easy maneuver to do. It's something that these guys practice for all the time. In my fleet, we usually don't practice for it. We don't usually need to. But it is something that on one of the boats I practice on, we do it on occasion. Just in case. But it's actually very fun to do. It's also scary as fuck to do a peel. You bring the old spinnaker down, the spent spinnaker down through the forward hatch. So you have someone who's called a squirrel down below packing it in, and you're actually going to see here in a bit. Actually, that's actually going to be a problem on Geronimo here. It's a very dangerous situation. I'll develop here. You'll see that in a minute.
Get that jib down! Ready forward! Hey, Howard's on! Right up! Still right on the back line! Get it down! Get it down! Hey, Howard's on! Okay! Still right on the back line! Get it on! 1.5 up top there!
Good peel. Yep, that's exactly what happens. So, you get caught in the bite. That's what that's called if you're not paying attention. That's why you're always shifting your feet as you're pulling these things in, just to make certain that your feet are not caught on anything. He didn't do that, and he's about to pay the price here. It's pretty dangerous. I was right. It's a dip pole. This is by far the best sailing scene of any film ever. This is why I love this film, this scene right here. So basically, what Geronimo is doing here, because they are behind, and they are to leeward, so that means that Platypus can cover them. Basically, is take most of their wind away, which is why the leeward boat usually has rights. But if you keep enough horizontal distance between yourselves, that doesn't become a problem. The other boat can't come up enough into you to make you turn away. So there's a middle ground there, and Platypus is doing that. So what Geronimo's trying to do here, by throwing in as many attacks as possible, is he's forcing Geronimo to tack with him and cover him, keep covering him, keep his boat between Platypus needs to stay between Geronimo and the finish line. But what Geronimo's trying to do here, by throwing in as many attacks as possible, is to create a situation in which Platypus might make a mistake, and then as soon as Platypus makes a mistake, Geronimo can capitalize. That's exactly what you see here.
Get the
Okay, tacking! Leo!
Here we go again!
We can land the finish line from here. I think we should go for it right now.
Go, 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 go! Okay, tacking! Leo! Here, lads.
That's a dummy tack.
Go, 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 go! Going back, going back. Here we go. Yeah, here we go, get it in.
Gotta go back, Taggart. They've thrown us a dummy. We've got to go back. Back we go. Stay away.
Leo!
Got to go back.
Come on, get that bloody gibbon!
Oh no! Parker's faked out Neville. He's thrown him a dummy tack. Geronimo has finally got a nose into clear wind.
So there was actually a finish that was actually closer than this, and that was in 2007, and it was Alinghi who held the cup at that point, and New Zealand who was trying to take it back, and they finished 1 second apart. Alinghi beat New Zealand by 1 second. That's how close and how good the IACC boats had actually gotten, which replaced the 12 meters. How even. So, final thoughts. This movie is by far the most realistic sail movie I think that's ever been made. It's definitely a wonderful tribute to the America's Cup. it remains my favorite sailing movie of all time because of its realism, because of its authenticity, because of its portrayal of all of the characters and the effort and the intensity of the racing. You don't see that with movies nowadays. All those sailing scenes, they're real scenes. They're not fake, they're not CGI. It's absolutely real. It captures the beauty and the majesty and the intensity and the challenge and the joy of sailing in a way that no other film has ever been able to do. And for me, this is why it remains my favorite film of all time. Thank you and have a good night.